Since we have a three-time Super Bowl appearance NFL star here, halftime is over, and we'll say welcome back to your Applied Underwriters Invitational Gala. Ladies and gentlemen, she was born January 6th, 19... Happens all the time. She won the New Mexico State Amateur at the tender age of 12. She played in her first U.S. Women's Open just out of high school. The second year out of high school, in her second U.S. Women's Open, she finished tied for second. She turned pro in 1977. In 1978, I want you to listen to these numbers, please. She won 9 times, 5 tournaments in a row. How about 48 LPGA tournament titles, 3 LPGA majors? Ladies and gentlemen, LPGA Hall of Famer extraordinaire, Ms. Nancy Lopez. And that handsome fellow off to her left, Justin Fields, a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Justin Reid.
I catch that all the time.
Just seeing if you were paying attention. Yeah. They were. Yeah. Justin Reid, a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, home of Phil's Oyster Bar. He decided to forego his native LSU for a career in Stanford, which we're going to have Justin explain because that's a pretty good switch from that football factory. He was drafted by the Houston Texans, a third-round pick at the safety position. He joined the Kansas City Chiefs after his Texans career and appeared in 3 Super Bowls, 2-time Super Bowl champion, Justin Reid, ladies and gentlemen, right here. So we will start, no offense, Justin, but ladies first.
None taken.
Let's talk about Roswell, New Mexico, and the influence of your dad on your career as you were growing up en route to winning all those New Mexico State tournaments and then turning pro and the LPGA. I know what a huge effect your dad had on your career.
Thank you, Jim. When I started playing golf, I was really just I was watching my mom and dad all the time playing golf. I didn't start it when they were playing, but around about 8 years old, I started playing the game and walking with my mom and dad. And my dad was a pretty good player. He was like a 3 handicap on a municipal golf course. And my mom just pretty much played for the exercise. So, back in those days, they didn't have nannies and babysitters. So you kind of tagged along. So I was that person that tagged along with my mom and dad. My favorite thing about golf, though, was walking on the pavement with my dad's spikes with his shoes. Some of you may not even know what that is because we had spikes in the shoes. And when you walk, the metal spikes, when you walked on the pavement, it made the best noise. It's crackling, crunching sound. And so I was always wearing my dad's shoes. And then playing with my mom and dad, my dad finally handed me a golf club. My mom had some Patty Bergs. He handed me a golf club, and the only instruction I got, and my dad was an auto body repairman. He owned an auto body shop. And he looked at me and he said, "Nancy, every time you swing, make connection." He was a little Hispanic guy, so making contact wasn't what he wanted me to do. He wanted to make connection. So from that time on, that was my only lesson. And my dad was my only teacher. Pretty much developed my own game by just going out and hitting golf balls and figuring out what made the ball go right to left, what made the ball go left to right. But my dad was such a great golf dad. He was my best friend. And he never put the pressure on me that so many parents do on their kids today. He wanted me to love the game. He wanted me to love it and be the best I could be. And he told me if I loved what I was doing, I'd be great at it. So he always had great anecdotes. So for me, when I was playing the game, because as a young person, you get mad, you get angry. And I remember the first time I ever slammed my club on the ground, I was probably about 10 years old. And he ran up to me with the club in his hand. And he got in my face and he said, "If you ever do that again, I'm going to hit you with this golf club." So I never did it again. And from that day, I think I realized that when you're playing golf, getting angry wasn't going to make you play better. And my dad always said to me, he says, when you get mad, he asked me when he said, "Do you want to shoot 39 or do you want to shoot 40?" And I said, "Well, I want to shoot 39, Dad." And he said, "Well, when you get mad, you shoot 40." And for some reason, that made sense to me that I didn't need to get mad. So I have a company, and our mantra is play happy because my dad always said I played better when I played happy.
If you were seated up here, you could see just a little tear, a little moisture in the eyes, and you could hear the voice crack just a little bit because we know what a huge effect your dad has had. Speaking of walking, spikes or non-spikes, there's a picture, right, at Black Wolf Run of you walking with Meg Mallon, right, and Jane Geddes walking, right, and you're kind of waving the white towel. There are towels attached to putters. So tell us that story about that photo here.
Yeah,
right at Gala.
How many of you saw the picture? It's when you're going down the stairs at Black Wolf Run. And when I played the U.S. Open that year, Black Wolf Run was very tough. It kicked my butt. We didn't make the cut. None of us did. And they were really good players. But what happened was we were playing the first day. We're all over par. Second day, all over par. But on the 14th hole, and that year, the mantra for the LPGA was, hey, we can play. So on the 14th hole on the second day on Friday, I looked at all the girls and the caddies were all standing on the green. I said, do you all realize that this is the first time all three of us have hit the green in regulation in 2 days? And Meg looked at me. She goes, hey, we can play. So we all, of course, started laughing, the caddies and me and Jane and Meg. And the crowd was probably wondering why we were laughing because we were playing so bad. So anyway, as we're finishing up, Jane says, let's put the towels on the end of our putters as we walk up 18 because we surrender. And so that's what the picture was all about.
Justin, let's swing it back over to you for a second, give Nancy a little bit of a break. When you were growing up in Baton Rouge, obviously the Tigers, LSU, and the decision to go to Stanford, did you make it by yourself? Were your mom and dad involved? Talk a little bit about that decision. Why the Cardinal instead of the Tigers?
Yeah, there was so much that went into that. I grew up as a humongous LSU fan. My dad was an All-American track athlete there. My mom went there. My sister went there. My older brother was an All-American safety there. There was an enormous amount of pull to go to LSU, but for me, my parents, yeah, I hear you. I still bleed purple and gold, baby. You know what I mean? I still do. But everything is always about situation, and it's about opportunity. And, when I was growing up, I was always my older brother's little brother. And, I wanted to blaze my own trail and find a way out of that shadow, be Justin Reid instead of Eric Reid's little brother. And the situation was just right in Palo Alto with Dwayne Aquina, who had recently came there from Texas, coached a lot of Pro Bowl and all-pro safeties in the NFL. And then David Shaw, the head coach there. My brother was playing for the 49ers at the same time. So, and my mom was actually a travel nurse working in Oakland. So she'll do 2 weeks in Oakland, 2 weeks back home in Louisiana. So it just made a ton of sense to go out to California. And, I grabbed it with both hands and never regretted it.
We're just a couple weeks removed from the NFL draft. Everybody saw the dramatic drop for Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, right from Colorado, from Mel Kiper's top of the board through all of the rounds of the draft. But you've got a similar story before you were picked number 3 by the Texans, right? You slipped a little bit in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that story. And I'm sure a lot of you in the crowd today can relate to where you start is not where you finish, right? So I came out of college. I was a Thorpe finalist. I had all these accolades. I could have came back for a 4th year, but I decided to forego my senior year because my head coach, Coach Shaw, actually told me that I was ready to go play in the league, and he encouraged me to leave early. If you know college football, that doesn't happen often. So that's why I love him to this day. But I had a first-round grade, and, the draft comes around. You're excited, literally have no idea what's going to happen next. I'm watching the TV the same way all of you are watching the TV to see what's going to happen next. And, the first day comes and goes, my name's not called, I was a feeling that I was like, okay, I knew it was a possibility, disappointed, but I was like, there's no way I'll slide past the second round. Well, day 2 comes and goes, second round comes and goes, and then you start to wondering what happened, what went wrong. And then, your name's finally called and all those feelings vanish. But what I took with me my rookie season, I ended up being on the ESPN All Rookie team because every team that I played that year passed up on me twice, and I wanted them to feel that. Every time that I played them, I wanted them to know that you passed up on me twice. So, you take it with you and you use it as motivation, and you add that fuel to the fire, and you try and make something out of it.
If there's a little Justin Reid out there that is following your career and wanted to kind of follow in your footsteps and grow up and go to a good school like Stanford and be drafted and play in the NFL, what advice would you pass along to that little Justin out there?
Yeah, I would pass the same advice to him that my father and my mother passed to me, which is two things. One, if you're going to do it, you put 110% into it. You don't half-ass anything. You are what you put out there. You want your reputation to speak that you're going to be a person that puts 100% effort into everything that you do because you don't want anyone to ever question that you're giving them your best. And then number two is don't ever believe anyone else's ceiling on you. You know what I mean? Like, you believe in yourself, that's all you need. Like, people always, you don't want anyone else to say you can't do something. Because if you if you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. You know what I mean? The second you allow someone to convince you that you can't be this person or you can't accomplish this achievement, then you won't. You know what I mean? So first and foremost, you have to believe in yourself, and then everyone else will believe in you later.
Everybody here from Applied Underwriters, of course, is familiar with the Ryder Cup captain and good friend of Applied Underwriters, Luke Donald, who has joined us at this event, and what he has contributed as far as the selection of the Ryder Cup and the leadership. Well, this Hall of Famer, has played on the Solheim Cup, not only played on it, also been a captain back in 2005. And among your many accolades, 48 LPGA titles, 3 LPGA majors, the Hall of Fame, but being captain of the Solheim Cup, that is right up there.
Yeah, Jim, being able to be the captain of a U.S. team and be able to win was really exciting. And I played in the first Solheim Cup in 1990 at Lake Nona when we really didn't know, what we were going to be doing there, what the competition was going to be like. And Kathy Whitworth was my captain at that time. And the strategy and what you see in the Solheim Cup now compared to what we did when we played the Solheim Cup, the first one, Pat Bradley was my partner, one of the best players on the LPGA Tour at that time, and we bucked heads quite a few times. But we go to the Solheim Cup, and there are probably around 2,000 people there, nothing like it is now. And Pat Bradley and I had probably won about, I'm going to say 12 tournaments, and maybe she had won 14. And so we're nervous. We've won a lot of LPGA events, but yet now you're playing for your country. So we're walking up to the tee. We're playing against Allison Nicholas and Laura Davies. And we step on the first tee, no strategy. We didn't, like now that they think about who's going to hit on the odd holes, who's going to hit or who's going to putt. So who wants to hit into the greens? We basically stepped on the first tee, and I looked at Pat and I said, "Are you nervous?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "Are you nervous?" And she said, "I'm yes." She said, "Do you want to hit first?" "No, you hit first." "No, you hit first." So she hit first. So that was our strategy. And we were nervous because now we're representing our country, trying to win the Solheim Cup. Well, we ended up killing the Europeans because the Europeans didn't have as many good players as we did, American players. So we ended up winning like 14.5 points to like 3.5. So we really killed them. It was great. But then now the Solheim Cup grows. I was captain in 2005. And for 2 years, I don't think people realize you're captain for 2 years. You're planning everything. You're watching the players. You're watching players that you're not sure are going to be on the team. So I followed for 2 years all these different players. I had dinners with some of the young players to see who meshed with the whole team or with the players that I thought were going to be on the Solheim Cup. Then I had meetings with the older players, which is Julie Inkster and Meg Mallon, Beth Daniel. Those were all the players that did make my team. So you sit there and you're learning so much from them. And it was fun to watch these great players play. As a captain, I wanted to play alternate shot practice because we were really bad at alternate shot. And when I got them out there alternate shot, Julie Inkster said, "We never practiced alternate shot." I was really shocked that none of the captains put them out there with alternate shot. So anyway, the strategy was, and I'm going to go to the strategy. I had Beth Daniel and Paula Creamer playing in the first match. We play alternate shot that first day. And I had them playing in the first match. And it was funny because the young players didn't get it. Paula had not played on a Solheim Cup. And so I told her, I said, it's really different when you're playing on a Solheim Cup. It's not like playing an LPGA event. And she's like, oh, I get it. Well, she didn't really get it. So I had her and Beth in my first match. And so Donna Capone was my assistant captain. We're at Crooked Stick, sitting on the first tee. It's a little bitty tee. Everybody's yelling USA, USA, and then the Europeans are yelling for the Europeans. And as we're standing there, Donna Capone says, gosh, it's getting close to tee time. Where are the girls? So every group has a helper. They have a radio. I have a radio. And so now I'm like, all right, where's my helper? And I contacted her, which was Myra Blackwelder, who played on the LPGA Tour also. And I said, where is Paula and where is Beth? She says, well, and here's, Paula knows all about playing on the Solheim Cup, of course. So she says, Paula's on the practice green and she can't move. Like, she can't move? What do you mean she can't move? She wants Beth to come and get her. Well, Beth was on the driving range, which is way over here, and there's like hundreds of people. So she had to go through hundreds of people to get to Paula Creamer. So now they're walking up, and I see Beth. And, Beth's played on a lot of Solheim Cups. She looked nervous. She walked up to me. I looked at her. I always kind of grab my players by the arms. I looked at her in the eyes. I said, you know what to do, Beth. Go get them. Yes, Captain, she says. So now I see Paula walking up, and she looks like that white tablecloth, and she looks really nervous. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. So she walks up, and I look at her. She was the best player that year. She was a birdie-making machine. So she walks up. I grabbed her by both arms. I said, Paula, take a lot of deep breaths. You'll feel good about the third hole. And I said, you know what to do. You're my birdie-making machine. And she says, yes, Captain. So she walks up on the tee. Colin, who is a very famous caddy and is a very famous caddy, caddied for her. So she walks up to him, and they start arguing like immediately. I cannot figure out what was going on. But like I said, this tee was so little. So Paula walks away from him, and I'm like, oh, boy. So I walked up to Colin. I said, Colin, I don't know what just happened, but she's a woman. She's nervous. So if you need to kiss her butt, just do it. And he says, yes, Captain.
Yes, Captain.
So everybody's captaining me.
Captain.
So now Beth is hitting the first shot, which I was grateful because I don't think Paula could have hit it. So she hits the first shot, and at Crooked Stick, you've got to hit left center of the fairway because there's a big tree overhanging. She hits a great tee shot, and so I stay there because I want to watch the other team or the rest of my team tee off. So Donna and I were on the first tee waiting, and we watched, and we see Beth going to her shot and Paula with her. Well, I thought they had the strategy, but this is what happened in the captain's room that night. Beth said that she looked over at Paula and said, Paula, what do you not like to hit into the par fours? She said 79 yards. So Beth looked at her, and she proceeded to scull it over the green. Beth chipped up, and they made a par. Well, they won the match. So I have to go back. So now the caddy gets the yardage and walks up to Paula and says 78. Just so she wouldn't freak out. So anyway, they ended up winning, and the strategy and being able to be the captain of this great team, which is, if I can remember all of them, I had Laura Diaz, Beth Daniel, Meg Mallon, Julie Inkster, Christy Kerr, Christina Kim, Natalie Golbus, Paula Creamer, I'm missing somebody, Michelle Redmond, and Rosie Jones. Great team, and they played great, and they became a team because when you're trying to build a team out of 12 women, you've got to work really hard to do that. And they were all great teammates. They won, and they've been friends forever. So it was an honor for me to be able to be the captain of all these great players, and was really, out of the 48 wins I had, that 49th being captain was my best win ever.
And representing your country.
Yes. Yeah. Right. I get long-winded, Jim.
Justin Reid, speaking of teams, 3 Super Bowl teams, 2 Super Bowl rings, right? You've got a couple of Super Bowl anecdotes. First, describe the pressure of playing in a Super Bowl, and then I think you've got a humorous story for us.
Oh, yeah. Definitely have some hardware. Really proud of that. You know what? Playing in the first Super Bowl, the first time being on a stage like that, something you dream of as a kid. Like you said earlier, it's just nerve-wracking. You want to perform well, but I don't think I enjoyed it nearly as much as the second Super Bowl because second time around, you actually got to take things in, got to try and get away. One of the cool things in athlete psychology is you want to get away when you really want to learn something or you're really deep into something. Sometimes you got to take a step back and like do something else to clear your mind so that you can let your body naturally take over later. And what's always been a fun thing for me to do to get away was to play golf, right? So me and my brothers always play golf on the Saturday before the round. And some of my teammates do other things to get away. If you think about this, you'll understand. But some of them are really into gardening, and quite a few of them are into gardening actually. And one of the cool things I learned when we were playing in Vegas, getting ready to play the 49ers is I think it was a Thursday night. In the middle of the night, about 11 p.m., the 49ers hotel fire alarms start going off, right? And then they say that, somebody snuck in there and pulled a prank and, pulled the fire alarm. But it turns out they were just into gardening too. So, gardening is really popular these days, if you haven't heard. Yeah, but I always loved playing golf, and every Super Bowl, me and my siblings get together and we play around. And when before the match is when all the nerves in, but it's like you said, being on the third hole. By the time you get in it, all of that disappears and you get locked into the game. You just get into the zone and you start playing, right? And you trust your instincts, you trust your training. You don't think, you just go play. And then, you do what you've been working your whole life to do and make it happen.
Justin Reid, in contention as the day started out. Are you still in contention tomorrow, you and your team?
We have a shot. And for whoever's in front, we're coming for you.
Okay.
I want you to know that.
All right, Justin, I want you to give me 3 adjectives or 3 adverbs or a combination that describes you as a golfer. Just 3 words.
Addictive is probably a good one. Tenacious, a learner, and possibly too fast.
Now give me 3 adjectives or adverbs that describes Justin Reid, the man.
Consistent learner, builder, and just friend.
All right, Ms. Lopez, 3 words that describe you as a golfer.
Positive, love to win, and enjoy the walk.
And 3 words that describe Nancy Lopez, the lady, the mom, the person.
I hope good mom, good wife, and just a good person.
Hall of Famer Nancy Lopez and future Hall of Famer Justin Reid.